Survival games are one of the most popular genres of video games, with so many titles taking their spin on the formula. From Minecraft to Ark to LEGO Fortnite, they are always going to have a prominent place in the industry. However, there are a lot of games that use survival mechanics that aren't actually survival games, and a few in particular are worth highlighting. Whether it be hunger or sleep, or just the need to gather resources and manage some core needs of your character, survival mechanics can do a lot to build on a game's immersion, but also walk a fine line of tipping it into tedium. Today we're going to look at 4 games that make creative and integrated use of survival elements, and just how these things can factor in to make other more familiar genres even better. First off on our little journey through the gentle suffering of survival mechanics is not so gentle suffering. That's right, it's the harsh and desolate, warm and welcoming world of Mad Max. Now right off the bat I have to say, this game is actually really kind of good. You don't even have to be a fan of the series. I'm not, and I know nothing about it besides cars, sand, and angry men. But the game itself is simple and interesting enough to offer a solid open world experience in its own right. But just how does it dip into survival? Well, you need to drink, of course. And so does your car. Just don't mix those two up. Yep, Mad Max has a thirst mechanic, which is your health, and vehicle fuel management, meaning you'll need to keep on top of both if you want to keep the literal and proverbial wheels turning. I mean, the very first objective in the game is to find water. You can't get more survival than that.
Need water.
But of course, this being a wasteland picked clean, water and fuel are going to be interchangeably the 2 rarest things you can find. The third being a friend. But you do have Chum Bucket. And the dog. I really love the use of this mechanic here in Mad Max because even though it's a somewhat underwhelming though enjoyable game, and was glossed over by most people and forgotten by the rest, it remains a memorable example in my mind. Being left for dead at the start of the game really imbues the sense of survival in a world where you feel like you have no chance. So to introduce these mechanics that you'll have to watch from here on out makes it even more daunting, in all of the best ways. It's not tedious or overwhelming, but instead just makes it feel like you are out here surviving against the elements, and you're going to have to come back strong if you not only want to make it, but also want to take revenge. What better way to imbue the sense of enduring a kingdom succumb to malice and destruction than with some good old survival elements? The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild introduced a whole new style of Zelda game, and went in a drastic direction that was far from the formula that the series was known for. People debated if it even felt like a Zelda game anymore, but with critical acclaim the world over, and now a strong sequel to build on the freedom further, it's clear that this is Zelda games now. But among the many things that the game introduced, it also added in a few elements of survival to increase the dangers of Hyrule, including the need to combat temperature. Link will need to cook meals for various reasons: health, combat advantages, general buffs, but they can also be used to hold fast against the elements. Spicy peppers are great for the cold environments, and if you don't have a nice warm sweater, then you're going to need it. Heading to Death Mountain? Think again. That's right, you're going to need some special protection here if you want to get close to the Goron civilization without burning to a crisp. Heading to the desert? Just wear less. Yeah, no, that makes sense actually, apart from the heat stroke. Breath of the Wild and, to that effect, Tears of the Kingdom both use just this one mechanic to make survival a non-assured consideration. And when you're heading off with complete freedom in this forgotten kingdom, there's no better way to stop you in your tracks and make you feel unprepared. Red Dead Redemption 2 is probably one of the last games people expect to include any sense of survival. On top of surviving the impeding and increasing long arm of the law, and
That's civilization. I know.
you also have to make sure you're loaded up on canned pineapples and some baked beans. This is probably one of my favourite ways to implement hunger into a game. Instead of needing to eat because the alternative is starvation and death, in Red Dead Redemption 2, you need to eat to maintain your cores. The cores for health, stamina, and Deadeye will all deplete over time, and quicker if those things are being used up. If you don't eat or have the resources to keep them topped up, then you'll gradually find Arthur struggling to keep up a sprint and stuck at a much more vulnerable level of health. It's by no means a key requirement for the game, but it is an element that means you'll be at a big disadvantage if you don't take care of yourself properly. Take care of Arthur, please. And speaking of, something that can damage these cores significantly is the temperature of the environment. Walk around the desert in a coat, or sport the feeling of freedom in the snow-capped peaks, and you'll find yourself having something of a rough time. The subtle but meaningful implementation of these elements is all about the cores. Hunger and cold won't kill you outright, but they'll do their damnedest to make you ready to drop should a bullet fly your way or a gust of wind be too strong. There's also the need to sleep in the game, which is less of a need and more Arthur will keep rubbing his eyes and shaking his head to keep himself conscious. The poor boy needs his rest, please just let him sleep. And then there are baths, but honestly that's more for the survival of everyone around you rather than yourself. You can walk around in mud all you like, but people probably won't appreciate it. Here we have Kingdom Come Deliverance, a game that strives for realism in almost every aspect, and while that means it's slow paced and can be really difficult, I absolutely love it.
I feel quite hungry. Must eat. Oh, Jesus. I could really do with some sleep.
And of course, with realism comes the most survivally survival of all. Deciding what to eat every day and keeping up a healthy sleep pattern. Two things I managed to do much better in Kingdom Come Deliverance than in real life. If you want to take a break from life to instead scrounge together some groschen to pay for a decent meal, a place to sleep, and if you're lucky, a bath, then Kingdom Come Deliverance is here to bring the dread of daily survival to enhance that realism of peasant life. I honestly love the way that this game commits to realism, and even the most tedious aspects of maintenance and upkeep are intentionally designed to be just so. While it can be a bit of a discouraging thought to a lot of people to keep on top of all that, if it's something that you like the sound of, then you'll have a great time. It's very much the basics of survival, done so in a game where survival isn't the focus, but it's just something that is ever persistent that you need to keep in mind.
Oh, Jesus.
All in all, these games do a lot to add new levels of depth to an already established style of gameplay, and can be a great way to immerse yourself into a character's shoes, or even the whole world that they have to face. Whether it's the passive dangers of the world you're in, the persistent needs of human survival, or just the compulsion from others to go and take a damn bath, survival has so much of a place outside of just survival games. There are games like Fallout and even Skyrim that have an optional survival mode built in, wherein hunger, thirst, and sleep and temperature all become considerations, but I wanted to focus on the games that do so in more subtle and creative ways. Well, mostly subtle. There are plenty of games that do things like this, on a variety of levels, but these few are the ones I wanted to highlight. Are there any others that you can think of that you feel add to the game? Please let us know, or even just let me know. I want to play more games like this, because it really adds so much to the experience.